Today, we're diving into some of the most incredible corporate comebacks in modern business history. These are companies that should have gone under. In some cases, it seemed inevitable, yet they found a way back from the brink. These stories are full of stunning pivots, wild risks, and the kind of resilience that teaches us all something about never giving up. Let's jump into the top 10 businesses that should have failed, but didn't. Let's start with a story that most of you know, but few remember how close it came to disaster. In the mid-1990s, Apple was on life support. They were losing money, bleeding market share, and the company seemed to lack direction. At one point, they were about 6 weeks away from bankruptcy before things turned around. What saved them? The return of co-founder Steve Jobs and a deal with Microsoft that saw Bill Gates' company invest $150 million in Apple at a time when Jobs needed every lifeline he could get. Under Jobs' renewed leadership, Apple focused on innovation, simplicity, and design, launching groundbreaking products like the iMac, the iPod, and eventually the iPhone. Apple went from near collapse to one of the most valuable companies on the planet. Now let's talk about Netflix. Today, Netflix is basically synonymous with streaming. But it wasn't always that way. Netflix started as a DVD by mail service in the late 1990s. That model worked for a while. But then a disastrous decision in the 2000s to separate their streaming service from physical DVD rentals and raise prices caused subscriber numbers to crash, wiping billions off the company's value almost overnight. At one point, they were losing subscribers, losing money, and their future looked bleak. But instead of folding, Netflix doubled down on content and pivoted aggressively into original shows and international expansion. Today, with hundreds of millions of subscribers worldwide, Netflix is a dominant entertainment powerhouse, a comeback few saw coming. Next up is Starbucks. You might take your daily latte for granted now, but this company has seriously weathered storms before. In the early 2000s, especially around the 2008 financial crisis, Starbucks opened stores too fast and diluted the brand and saw profits drop sharply. They actually closed hundreds of locations and retrenched on strategy. Howard Schultz, the company's influential leader, came back as CEO and refocused Starbucks on experience, quality, and community, helping it rebound into one of the most recognizable brands in the world. Let's flip from coffee to comics with Marvel. Throughout the early 90s, Marvel Comics dominated pop culture. But by the mid-90s, things were falling apart. Poor business decisions, overexpansion, and a collapsing comic book market pushed Marvel into bankruptcy in 1996. It seemed like heroes wouldn't be enough to save them, until they pivoted. Marvel began licensing its characters for movies and TV, a move that, over time, became one of the most successful film franchises ever with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Disney then acquired Marvel, and these characters now dominate global box offices. What once looked like a sure failure became a multi-billion-dollar empire. From movies to footwear, consider Converse. The brand behind the iconic Chuck Taylor All-Stars was an almost forgotten relic by the late 1990s. In 2001, Converse actually filed for bankruptcy, burdened by debt and declining relevance in a sneaker market dominated by Nike and Adidas. 2 years later, Nike stepped in and acquired Converse, not to bury it, but to revive it. Under Nike's guidance, Converse rediscovered its cultural cool, And today, the brand sells millions of pairs every year. Something that should have disappeared became a retro classic. Now let's talk about Lego, the beloved Danish toy company. You'd be forgiven for thinking that Lego's colorful bricks were eternally successful, but by the early 2000s, the company was struggling. Rising competition from video games and missteps in product diversification left Lego near collapse. They even faced years of losses. The turnaround came from returning to what made them special: creativity, quality, and simplicity. Lego also embraced partnerships with hit movies like Star Wars, creating product lines that children had to have. The result? Lego bounced back stronger than ever. Next, we have Sony, a name synonymous with electronics innovation. But Sony has had some brutal near-death experiences. In the decade following the 2008 financial crisis, their share price collapsed. They lost billions, and many predicted their downfall. What saved them wasn't a single product, but diversification. Sony leaned into growth areas like music, movies, and gaming, especially with the PlayStation brand, providing alternative revenue streams while their hardware business stabilized. Sony's story is a reminder that reinvention can be just as crucial as innovation. Now it's time for a company that's actually very relevant: Tesla. People often forget that for years, Tesla flirted with bankruptcy. Between 2017 and 2019, the company burned through cash as it struggled to ramp up production of its electric cars. Elon Musk himself has publicly admitted that Tesla was days away from failing. But instead of folding, the company pushed through its production challenges, reduced costs where it could, and started delivering cars at scale. In 2020, Tesla reported its first profitable year, and today it's one of the most valuable automakers on Earth, reshaping the automotive landscape. Number 2 on our list is BMW. Yes, the legendary German automaker. But this company's path wasn't always smooth. In the early 1950s, BMW was on the brink of bankruptcy due to declining motorcycle sales and unprofitable car lines. Many analysts thought the company would disappear forever. What bought them time was the introduction of the BMW 700, a car that sold surprisingly well and reinvigorated the brand. From there, BMW focused on engineering excellence and luxury positioning, becoming one of the most respected car brands in the world. Last but absolutely not least, let's talk about General Motors. GM was once the undisputed king of the auto industry in America, but in the late 2000s, the global financial crisis hit, and GM was sinking fast. Massive debts, declining sales, and an outdated business model pushed them into bankruptcy in 2009. Many thought one of the world's industrial giants was gone for good. But the US government stepped in with emergency financing, restructuring the company and forcing a leaner, more competitive GM. Today, the company is back on its feet, selling millions of vehicles and investing heavily in electric cars. What seemed like the end became a major reset. So what can we learn from these remarkable comebacks? First, failure is rarely final. Every one of these companies hit a point where defeat seemed certain, but none accepted it as the end. Instead, they adapted, reinvented, and took calculated risks. Second, innovation often comes from desperation. Companies like Apple, Netflix, and Lego didn't just survive by doing the same thing harder. They changed what they did entirely. Third, strategic partnerships and outside help can be life-saving. In Apple's case, funding from a competitor helped keep the lights on long enough to spur a true turnaround. In Converse's case, acquisition by a rival gave them the scale they needed to survive. And finally, brand strength. Real brand strength matters. When consumers value what you represent, people will still root for your comeback, even if business fundamentals are struggling. If you're a founder, a creator, or someone pursuing big goals, these stories should be inspiring. They show that even when the numbers don't add up, if you make smart moves, stay open to change, and don't give up, you can rewrite your story. Thanks for watching. If you learned something new today, smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know in the comments.